Maria Gonzalez had been staring at the same ceiling tile for 3 months, counting the tiny holes in the acoustic from a 2847 by her latest count. The rehabilitation center's fluorescent lights hummed their monotonous tune above her motionless body, a soundtrack to what felt like the end of everything she had ever known. 6 months ago, she was training for the Boston Marathon. Now, she couldn't feel her legs, couldn't move anything below her chest, couldn't even imagine a future that made sense. The accident had stolen more than her mobility. It had taken her identity, her independence, her will to fight. Physical therapy sessions felt like cruel jokes. The cheerful voices of nurses offering false hope grated against her ears like nails on a chalkboard. She had stopped trying, stopped believing, stopped caring about anything beyond the mechanical rhythm of her breathing and the slow passage of time. "Excuse me, Mom." The small voice cut through Maria's fog of despair like a shaft of unexpected sunlight. She turned her head, one of the few movements still available to hear, to see a little girl standing beside her wheelchair. The child couldn't have been more than 7, with dark curls escaping from 2 lopsided ponytails and a gap-toothed smile that seemed to light up the sterile hallway. "My name's Isabella, but everyone calls me," the girl continued, clutching a worn backpack against her chest. "I'm waiting for my daddy. He's working." Maria's throat felt rusty from disuse. She hadn't spoken to anyone outside of medical necessity in weeks. "Working where?" "He cleans this place at night," he said with obvious pride. "He says it's important work because he helps keep people healthy." "Are you healthy?" The question was so innocent, so direct, that Maria almost laughed. Ida would have laughed if she remembered how. "Not exactly." "Oh," he nodded seriously, as if this information required careful consideration. Then she tilted her head, studying Maria with the unfiltered curiosity that only children possess. "Can I ask you something?" Maria found herself nodding, drawn in despite herself by this unexpected interruption to her routine misery. "What's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen?" The question hit Maria like a physical blow. Beautiful? She hadn't thought about beauty in months. Beauty was for people who could walk through gardens, who could climb mountains, who could dance at weddings. Beauty was for the living, and she felt more dead than alive. I don't know," Maria whispered. "Really?" His eyes widened with genuine surprise. "But you're so old. You must have seen lots of beautiful things." Despite everything, Maria felt the corner of her mouth twitch. "I'm 28. That's ancient," he giggled. "My daddy's 32. And he's seen tons of beautiful things. He tells me about them when I can't sleep." Something in the girl's voice caught Maria's attention. "When you can't sleep, sometimes I get scared at night," he admitted, her voice dropping to a whisper. "We live in a small apartment, and sometimes there are loud noises. But Daddy tells me stories about beautiful things he's seen, and then I feel better." Maria studied the child more carefully. Her clothes were clean but clearly hand-me-downs, her shoes worn but polished. There was something in his eyes, a maturity that seemed too advanced for her age, a resilience born from circumstances that most 7-year-olds shouldn't have to navigate. "What kind of beautiful things does he tell you about?" Maria found herself asking. His face lit up. "Oh, lots. Like the sunrise he saw when he was walking to his first job, all orange and pink like cotton candy. Or the way the soap bubbles look when he's cleaning the windows here. He says they're like tiny rainbows floating in the air. And flowers. He knows all about flowers because he used to help his mama in her garden before she went to heaven." The girl's voice wavered slightly on the last part, but she pressed on with determined cheerfulness. "He says beautiful things are everywhere if you just know how to look. Even here." He showed me how the light comes through that window over there and makes patterns on the floor. "See?" Maria followed his pointing finger and, for the first time in months, really looked at something. The afternoon sun was indeed streaming through a tall window, casting intricate shadows through the blinds that danced across the linoleum floor like abstract art. "I never noticed that," Maria admitted. "Most people don't. he said wisely. Daddy says that's because they're too busy looking for big beautiful things and miss all the little ones. Before Maria could respond, heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. A man in janitor's coveralls appeared, worry creasing his weathered face as he spotted his daughter. There you are. I told you to wait in the break room. His English carried the soft accent of his native El Salvador, and his hands, calloused from years of hard work, gently touched his daughter's shoulder. I'm sorry, Mom. I hope she wasn't bothering you. Not at all, Maria said quickly. She was. She was keeping me company. The man, who couldn't have been much older than Maria herself, studied her with kind eyes that seemed to see too much. I'm Carlos Mendoza. This is my daughter Isabella. Maria Gonzalez. The runner, Carlos said softly, and Maria's heart clenched. Of course he would know. The staff probably talked about the cases, the tragedies, the broken people who filled these halls. Former runner, she corrected bitterly. Carlos was quiet for a moment, then crouched down to his daughter's eye level. Mija, why don't you go get your homework from my cart? I'll be right there. He nodded and skipped away, humming tunelessly to herself. Carlos watched her go with obvious love and pride before turning back to Maria. 6 months ago, my wife died in a car accident, he said simply. Cancer had been eating away at her for 2 years. But she fought every day. Even when she couldn't walk anymore, couldn't eat, could barely speak, as she fought. You know what she told me the day before she died? Maria shook her head, unable to speak. She said, Carlos, I can't take you with me, but I can leave her something better than sadness. I can leave her the gift of seeing beauty in the world, even when the world seems dark. That's why I tell my daughter those stories. That's why I teach her to look for light in the shadows. His words hung in the air between them, heavy with truth and pain and hope all tangled together. I watch you sometimes, Carlos continued quietly, when I'm working late and you're here in the common area. You sit in that same spot, staring at nothing. My wife did that too. For a while. But then she realized something. What? Maria whispered. That even when your body is broken, your heart doesn't have to be. Even when your legs won't carry you, your spirit can still soar. Even when everything feels impossible, there are still small miracles happening all around us. Daddy, his voice called from down the hall. I finished my math problems. Can we look for more beautiful things? Carlos smiled, and Maria saw where his daughter had inherited that radiant expression. We'll be right there, Mija. He started to stand, then paused. Maria, my daughter asked you about the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. Maybe it's time to start looking for new beautiful things. Small ones. The kind that are still possible, even from where you sit. Over the following weeks, Maria found herself looking forward to his visits. The little girl would appear like clockwork when Carlos started his evening shift, armed with homework, endless questions, and an irrepressible enthusiasm for finding wonder in the mundane. Together, they discovered the way the vending machine's lights reflected off the polished floor like a constellation. They watched dust motes dance in afternoon sunbeams and learned the names of the flowers in the small garden visible from the physical therapy room. He taught Maria to play hand clap games and shared her animal crackers with solemn ceremony. You know what? He announced one evening, her homework spread across Maria's lap table. I think you're beautiful. Maria started, but the child held up a small hand. Not like pretty beautiful, like soul beautiful. Daddy taught me that word. He says Mama had soul beautiful, and you do too. Maria felt tears threatening for the first time in months. How can you tell? Because you listen to me, he said simply. And you ask me questions about my day. And yesterday, when that mean boy in the waiting room was being loud and scary, you told him to use his inside voice so he wouldn't upset the other patients. That was so beautiful. That night, as Carlos collected his daughter and prepared to head home, Maria called out to him. Carlos, the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I think I know what it is now. He paused, his hand in his, both of them waiting. It's watching your daughter see the world with such hope, despite everything she's been through. despite everything you've both been through. That kind of resilience, that ability to find joy in small things. That's the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed." Carlos's eyes filled with tears he was too proud to shed. "Thank you." 3 months later, Maria wheeled herself into the rehabilitation center's main lobby, her arms strong from months of determined training, her heart fuller than it had been since the accident. She was moving to an accessible apartment across town, ready to start the next chapter of her life. She was waiting by the window, as she always was. "Are you leaving forever?" the little girl asked, her voice small. "Not forever. I'll visit." And besides, Maria reached into her bag and pulled out a small digital camera. "I have a job for you, a real job. The most important job in the world. I want you to take pictures of all the beautiful things you find. The small ones, the big ones, all of them. And then, when I visit, you can show me what I might have missed." His face blazed with joy as she carefully took the camera, handling it like the precious gift it was. "Will you take pictures too?" she asked. "Yes," Maria said, and meant it. "I'll take pictures too." As she wheeled toward the exit, Maria realized that his simple question hadn't just helped her remember joy, it had taught her to create it. In reaching out to a broken woman, a little girl had discovered her own power to heal. In teaching Maria to see light in the darkness, he had learned that everyone, no matter how small, has the ability to change a life. The most beautiful thing Maria had ever seen wasn't a sunset or a flower or a work of art. It was the moment a 7-year-old girl chose kindness over fear, hope over despair, connection over isolation. It was the moment she learned that sometimes the smallest voices carry the most powerful messages, and the most profound healing can come from the most unexpected places. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that reminded Maria of cotton candy. She smiled, pulled out her phone, and took her first picture of a beautiful thing.